Good call. All right, so I'm recording this now. So again, I'll go back quickly. The Illustrator file, we're going to be setting it up to have the field names matching in the database. And this is Illustrator, and I'm getting at it now. So I've got my amenity, and then I want to take this Braille, and I'm going to be setting this up as a Braille translation. So what I want to do is actually just create a field that is called amenity underscore Braille. Okay, and then so I take the box and I take the Braille itself, and I can take it and I move it into amenity Braille, and then I can say, okay, now I want this symbol to change. And so the idea here is that I'll be able to have a men's symbol, a women's symbol, and the shared symbol that you're seeing here. Okay, so what I'm going to do there is I'm going to create a field, and I'm going to create another layer, and I'm going to call this amenity underscore symbol. And with this, I take just the box, the rectangle, and move it into amenity symbol. And there we go. And then the last thing I want to do is take this little strip here, and I'm going to make this a color, make this color dynamic as well. So this color will change. So we have text being changed twice. One of them is the translation. We have a dynamic color that's being changed, and we have a dynamic symbol. Okay, so for this, I want to create I didn't want to do that. I want to create a layer here, and I'm just going to call this level color. And then I take that rectangle and put it there, and then go from there. And then so we have it all broken up now, and then all these other pieces, if I click on this, I can click on this, the dots along here, and I can see what they belong to. And this is actually my previous rectangle, because I already have that. I already used that here, so it's the same one. So I can take that one and say, okay, yeah, I don't need this. And what I like to do then is just go through and see, okay, where are these pieces? That's that. Then there's a piece there. This rectangle, it's a white background, so I'm going to take this and move it all the way up to the top here. And then the symbol I actually don't need in here, because I can just use the box. So when I close this down and minimize it there, we've got that sign type, and we've got the box, and we've got everything looks good here. So then what I want to do is I want to actually now say, I just want to make sure I'm not getting ahead of myself here, that I mentioned everything about. So the text, yeah, the text where it expands. So when I draw the text, it starts drawing at the insertion point. So it starts drawing there, and it draws based on the box that you draw. And in that, what I want to do is I want to define where the text is allowed to roam, basically. So I'm going to say that this is, and I just type in here left top. Okay. And when I say left top, what that does is that says, okay, this restroom text is going to start drawing from that point there, and it's going to go from the left top of this box. So starting here, it's going to draw the text to the right, and if it's top aligned, it's going to draw the text down. If it was left bottom aligned, it would draw it to the right and then draw the text up. But because the box only has enough space for one piece of text, it will only draw one line, and you'll get a dot, dot, dot on the corner of the text in the artwork saying you can't go any further. Okay. So that is the text. And so then I want to do the same thing for the braille, as we want it to go basically across and stop there and go down, but there's not going to be any down. So I can just copy this, and then I'm going to take this and paste it. And then I'm just going to go like that. So that's the text. And then what I want to do in the level, or sorry, for the symbol now, is the symbol is a little bit different. And I'm going to show you in here is I actually have an amenity. I have it I moved it to try and organize it, and so I've set up a little symbols thing here called amenity. And what I've done is I created an artboard for each sign type. And you can see here that this symbol here, we always want to draw the symbols at a certain consistency, so the height of these symbols here. And you want to draw them with the artboard so that it's fully top to bottom, and there's sort of a protection zone, so that when I'm drawing this, if I were to draw this woman here with you know, a little bit smaller, if I drew it where the artboard was kind of up to, actually here, let me do this. If I drew the artboard like this, what would end up happening is when this symbol gets placed into SignAgent, is it's going to scale to fit that box. So when I come back here, it's going to scale to fit the box. So her head is going to hit the top, and then her legs will be at the bottom. And so that is actually going to cause some visual differences between, say, these ones and the men's symbol being that way. So I recommend drawing in an artboard that has a consistent height. That way the symbols always align with each other properly. So now going back to the other Illustrator file here, what we do is the symbol will always, or the visuals will always scale to fit within a box, but we can choose how we want it to align. So I can say that I want it center middle aligned, which essentially would put, I can probably take this, I'll copy it over here, paste it, and basically, even if I'll say that this, I didn't do it with the artboard, it would basically do this, and it would make her this big as opposed to, you know, this big. So being center aligned, center middle aligned, would basically put her right in the center of this box. All right, and if I said left middle, it's going to put her over onto the corner of the box this way. If it's right middle, it's going to put it this way. And then the differences between the center and the middle is that if you had a symbol that, say, was the opposite way, then you could actually have it where you would have it as a top. And I guess this doesn't make sense for the women's symbol, but it could make sense for an arrow or those types of graphics that you'd be placing in there. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say that we want this amenity symbol to be, I'm just going to use left middle aligned, and really the it's kind of redundant when you have the scale to fit, but it just I'm just committing the command there. So this is all looking pretty good now. I do have one question about the color. I'm not sure, Jesse, if you can maybe pipe in on that, whether I need to actually do the color and then put the color field in there or not, but we'll find that out soon enough. So
just the rectangle is fine.
okay, great. So I've got all this done, and now I want to I'm going to say color fields. Line, yeah. Okay, so the color fields, yeah, there's no alignments there. Okay, great. So yeah, I've got this done now. So now I want to export this, and the way that we work with SignAgent is that SignAgent reads the SVG, so a scalable vector graphic that is generated from Illustrator. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to export as, and then I want to use my artboard. So you can see here that I didn't create this artboard just as my C1 or C1 amenity. I wanted to sort of leave it as a bit of an expansion as well, so I can actually put more than one sign on there if I choose to. Okay, so I'm going to say use artboards and then export. And then in here, it's saying, well, how do you want to export this? So the way that we have it set up is that we read the internal CSS for the sign. We read the font as an SVG. If you were drawing this sign as a non-templatable sign, so let's say you decided to just lay out, the three options of this sign as men's, women's, and restroom, and draw on the symbols for each one of them, you could create a C1, a C1.1, a C1.2, a C1.3, and have those already laid out and not dynamic. And then you could just say, okay, well, I want to convert the text to outlines, and then then you wouldn't have to, create the fields and make it dynamic. But with the dynamic fields, you can allow it to be really flexible and put different information in there and different symbols. So this could be also like a telephone room, and you could have a telephone symbol and all that type of stuff in there, right? So in here, we want it to be SVG and not outlined, and we want the object ID to layers. So that's why we spent the time creating these layers and their names, and then the decimal being 5. And actually, one last thing I want to do here is that I'm going to just close this down, and I like to sort of keep this a little clean here, where I just create a layer called background, and then I'll take this stuff here and move it into there. Okay, and then I can go File, Export, and use the artboards. And so in here, layer names and decimal being 5. That's important because decimal, or for the metric, 16th of an inch. You get into 5 decimal points really quickly there. So we want to keep those decimals on, and then you keep the minify off and the responsive off. Okay, so I hit OK, and I've already done this before, so it asks me if I want to replace that, and I say replace. So now I have my template. Now I go to SignAgent, and on the other side, I now need to do some steps here. And actually, I'm excited because I get to show you some of a new feature that we just launched. I believe it was yesterday. So drum roll, please. There's new. The forms are actually a little more friendly for sign types now. So I'm going to say new sign type, and I'm going to say that this is a amenity ID, and I'm going to call this a C1. I can pick my color that I want the sign to be on the plan. I say that kind of looks That looks nice. And we'll say that this is a $50 sign. And then I hit save. And now on my plan, I can actually go in here, find an amenity ID, and we'll say we're going to right click there. I'm going to drop a pin on that spot. And I'm just going to add it to my new project, new state. And it is my amenity ID. And I hit save. And now we have this new field. And we also have these buttons here. So for details such as adding notes and clients notes and different installation notes, you have more direct access to that. So in here, now what I need to do is I need to match my field names. And so it says here, okay, I need to add some new fields, and it brings me directly to the manage fields, and it starts off a sign with it already being attached there. Okay, so the names I used before were amenity. In this case, it doesn't need to be uppercase, lowercase, or it doesn't need to be lowercase with space. You can just type it as title case. And this is a text field. It is not a global field, meaning I don't want this amenity field to show up in every single sign type here. Okay. And it's not inherited from the location, meaning it's not, if I've said I want the text to show up because it's on new floor plan 1, it's not that. Okay, so then I say, okay, great. So then I'm going to save this sign. And now we've got that sign, and it is associated, or that template is associated, or that field now is associated with that here. Okay, so then the next thing I want to do is I want to create another field, and I could just stay in here and add them, but I'm just going to go ahead and come back here and say, or I can here, I'll click edit, and then this brings me back to here, and now I can add a new field here, and then I'm going to say that this is a amenity symbol. And then I'm going to also say that we want to have level color. And I want to make sure that I'm spelling it the same way that I spelled it here. And then the Braille I'm going to leave for just the last bit here. So I'm going to save these. And you notice there's no links here, but when I come back, after saving it, I now have links. So if I click on the link, it brings me directly to this sign, and now I can just change this to a visual, which means we can upload an SVG again, which is a scalable vector graphic, which we can cut vinyl with, or you can upload PNGs as well. Okay, so then I'm going to say that I want to save that. And then I have my level color, and this level color is not a text short field. And when you add fields the way I did through the sign type or through that other form, it defaults it to text short fields, and then you would just need to adjust it. I'm going to say that I want this to be a color choice field. Okay, so then in here, it's not a global. It's this color. Actually, we do want to make this an inherited value from the location. So I'm going to check that off, but it doesn't have to be. It could just be a value that I could pick and choose, depending on the zone of the building if you wanted to. So then I hit save. So now I've got these 3 fields, and those 3 fields look like everything matches up with these 3 fields, but not the Braille yet. So what I want to do is I want to come in here down to my manage messages, and I want to create a new language. So I come to, again, let's manage messages, languages, and I can say new language, and I'm going to call this language Braille. And then in here, it is a text language. So translations, and I could actually set that amenity symbol as a translation as well, but I didn't want to do that because I wanted to show you sort of both possibilities here. So in here, we've got a language type being text, visual, or color. So even color zones can be as part of it. So if you had an emergency sign, you could have an emergency symbol, you know, and then you could have the red background color, and all of that information would come over just by typing emergency. So it's some pretty powerful stuff. So then in here, it's a text field, and now texts are eligible for auto braille translation, so right within SignAgent. So what I want to do is I want to say that I want this to be a US or English US grade 2 braille. And then we say that SignAgent is not responsible, but we will also update as need be. And what language or what fields do I want to translate? And I will say I want that amenity to be translated. Okay, so then I hit save. And now when I come back to the sign type, if I look back at it, we'll go to the location and I'll click on this. I've got the 3 fields, but I don't have that 4th field. So to add that to this one now, I want to go in here and say edit sign type fields. And even though that we say like we want a braille translation and it's there, we now need to say that this sign type actually uses the amenity braille. And so SignAgent will, if you have a language and you say this field needs to be translated, it merges those and says amenity braille. Okay, so if you wanted to have a Chinese translation, you could say amenity Chinese and have Chinese as that other language there. Okay. And then, so I'm saying, and that's getting a little bit advanced, but I think you guys can handle this. So here, I just want to now make my form look nice in comparison and in the way that it looks here. So we have our symbol first, and then we have our color, and then we have our text, and then we have our braille. So I'm going to go just drag this up, say symbol, the color, amenity, and braille. So that looks good. And now I can go in and actually I'll just save this. And I'll go back to this little floor plan, click on the sign. So now I look at this and say, okay, yeah, this all looks pretty good. I can start to put in my information, but I don't have a symbol or symbols to put in there yet to choose from. And I also don't have colors to choose from yet. So I can type in text here, but I also don't have my graphic here as well. Okay, so there's a few things that still need to be done. So when I come in here and I go to manage visuals, I can now batch import my visuals. And so what I did is in Illustrator, I created one file called amenities, but this could be symbols. And then what you can do is you can actually, you can draw a symbol per artboard. So I have 1, 2, 3, and these are 3 different artboards. And now when I do a file export, export as, and then say use artboards, if I had 50 different symbols here and they were all labeled properly and all relational to each other, you can export that. Oh, I didn't want to do it as a PNG. I'll export as SVG. I'll use my artboards. And then I'm going to get we're going to just replace those 3. So if later on, if the client says, oh, we want to stylize this, or we really want to use, you know, we want to put top hats on each of them, you can go back into these original files, make adjustments to them, and you can then come in here and just batch upload that information or those files in there. So here's those 3 files. So 3 files, it's not that big of a deal, but 30 files or 50 files, you can just take and drag and drop those in here. And then it processes them. It says, okay, is this a new visual? There is no other visuals in there, so it doesn't matter. So it is a new visual. And then I can decide, okay, well, do I want to name this differently? And I can say, okay, well, let's just clean up these amenity fronts to it. And then what field is this part of? And yeah, I only want these symbols to be part of my amenity field, amenity symbols. So in my dropdown, it's going to be put them in there. And then we have this as a bit of a newer feature. So if you had a white background in here, I can check that off, and you can see the behind the man there that it's puts it as a dark background. But I don't want to use that because this is visual as is. So now I batch import those, and then it goes and put those in there, and now it is complete. So now if I come in here and have a look at this and go to my symbols, I now have the drop down with those 3 options in there. So the first one that I added the sign to was the shared one. I still don't have my colors yet, so I'll just save this. And then we'll come in here and I'm going to go to manage my colors, say a new color, and then that strip again. So this is for that is for this green color here. We want that to change based on the floor plan that it's on. So in here, I'm going to come in and say, okay, let's find a color. I should have maybe asked a poll for which color people want to put in there, but I'm just going to take this color and we'll call this blue. And you can put information about it, like what the paint detail is or what those things are. But this is basically a spot color that the printer or the sign fabricator will be able to match within their systems. So we save that, and then we want to go to the location because it is an inheritable value, and I want to go to the floor plan, click on my inherited field values, and I want to say that every sign that's on this floor that uses, again, that field is part of that sign type, use that blue color for it. So when I hit save and go back to my sign, you can see that it's inherited that blue color from that location plan. Okay, and now amenity and amenity braille, we can say that, okay, this is the restroom. And then when I hit return to save it, you can see that it automatically does that braille translation for me. So now the only thing that's left that we have to do is take that artwork and upload it into the system. So I can come here to my messages and I can go to edit the sign type fields. And then I would just hop over to the template tab, and then I can choose my file, and then I'll go to my, let's see here if I can, actually what I'll do is I'll just cancel this and come here, and there's my file right there. So I can just drag and drop that onto there, and I can then save it. And then it says, oh, there's something that needs to be fixed. And I need to actually, there's one more step I missed there. And it's because my list of things that I was supposed to follow, I didn't quite follow, and that is actually uploading the fonts that are used. The power of this system is that all of this, once you have it set up, it's in the system, and it can be, like, anybody can use it when they log on with the username and password, and they can put this information in there. So you don't have to have the fonts installed on all the different devices. It's all being done online. So what I want to do is I just want to come in here, and I actually put these fonts in here because I knew I was going to have to do this. So, and I agree. and then I add another font, and those are the two fonts. And the important thing here is that the field names, the name here is identical to what it's asking for here. So that's how it recognizes which font to use and where. So now when I come back to, when I come here and pick my template and save it, I now have, and come back to my template, I now have a template, and now I have the actual sign that was generated as a result. So if I go back to my floor plan and I zoom in now, I can hover over top of it and I see that information. So now I can start to make adjustments to this if I wanted to. I could go in and change the color, but I think you guys get the idea. And I would just, to change that color, then I can just, I can either create a new color or I can adjust this color. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'll create a new color and I'll create a new color. I'll do an orange color, and hopefully it'll be a little nicer. And then come in here, inherited values, and I just change that value. And then every single sign on this plan that uses that color will be updated. Now it's actually generating that artwork in the background, and now it redraws it. And you'll also notice that this symbol changed, and that's a bit of an advanced feature. But in the Illustrator file, I actually went in and used a command called color, level color, or color, and then the colon, and then the field there. So whatever piece of geometry that you use, and you use that command and say which field color you want to use, it will put that color in, and that's even on the symbols, which is really powerful. Yeah, so then the following, I'll just go through here and I'll go in and I'll say that let's add some other signs to here on these walls. And then we can open up for some questions here, but this would be the men's. And there you go. So that's, and so you can see here that because the text was, because we said left aligned, that it's actually left aligned now to the box that was there. So it's not as noticeable here, but it is slightly over to the one side. And then on here, the men's symbol is over to that side as well. So let me just confirm that I went through everything, and I think that I pretty much did there. So let's see here. Are there any questions? Okay, well, there's lots of questions. Anyone's in particular, Jesse, that
For the most part, I think I've been able to answer most of them, although people can disagree with me if they want.
Okay. So what I'm going to do then is just to show you that, like, it does seem like we did a bit of a, you know, this was about, I would say it's probably been, 40 minutes for this one sign. But once you have this sort of structure laid out, I can easily come in here and just create, I can take this artwork here, and I can take this and just create a separate artboard, and you know, I can change this to you know, A3, and then, you know, quickly clean this all up. Oh, I didn't want to do that. And so here's now a one sign, and then I can actually reuse the same structure here as well. So if I'm here, I'll add a new, we'll just call this, you know, room number. And then I can take this information here, change it to room number, and then I can add a room number braille. And so now when I have this, I have a completely separate sign type, and it has the same, like it has 3 elements, 2 of them being completely new, 1 being the same. And then in here, I can now just, I mean, I may want to, for the sake of the, you know, maybe I want to say 1, 2, 3, right? So then I can take this and just easily export this. And then again, it's going to ask me to save over top of that, which I'm fine. And now I have my other sign type. I can even just clone this one if I want to, change the name, and I've got these pieces in here, and I can just say this is a room number. And then in here, I can say, well, we don't need this one, so I'll just trash that. And we want to keep the level there, and we want to have a new room number field. And then so I'll trash that braille, save this. Created a new room number one, so I can now edit that. And then I want to translate that to braille. Save that. And then I got my fields, and now I can just add my room number braille. Come in here. And now I have my A3. There's my template. And then for a sign that's, say, you know, the electrical closet, you know, this is in the top, the jam there. Boom. So it's very, once you have the structure sort of set up and the ability to do, you know, add things, then you can work off of each other and just build and be, you know, really, really quick with it. And then the great thing about this is that years down the road, once you've spent the time in the system putting it in there, your designer doesn't have to go back and be like, oh, you know, what was that font? What was the color? What was all that stuff? All that's baked into it. It's like a standards manual that's baked right into SignAgent. So Okay. So yeah, manual, and I don't know, I kind of jumped in here, I don't know, but manual asks about the amenity message to set it up. Yes, there is a command for that. Yeah, and this is a bit more of an advanced feature, but if you go to our website, so if I come in here and I go to support at signagent.com, and if I type in uppercase, you can go in here, and what I would do is I would where is it here? I think I just type in uppercase, right? So that text, yeah, you would come in here and click on that. I'm gonna minimize this so I can actually see amenity, and then you would go left top, and then you do a comma, and then paste in uppercase. And then, yeah, so now if I export this, and I'd say use artboard, export, and replace. Yeah, so now when I come back here and go to my amenity and go to my template, and then I want to choose the one that was modified relatively recently, which would be this one here, and then take that and drag it onto there, save it, and then on the location, I'll go back to the location plan. And then there you go. And I think that, yeah, let me pull that back up. Yeah, it should. I think the one thing here, if we go to, I'll actually, so I can click on this link here, and then it shows me the Braille. And so on here, I can now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna yeah, actually what I need to do is I need to get rid of this. The message cannot be blank. So what I need to do here actually is, I think I know what you're getting at. That double comma shouldn't be there, because it's saying that it's the Braille isn't necessarily uppercase. This is here for you know, ADA, but not necessarily supposed to be that way. So what I'm going to do here is I will go and come to this sign here, and I will just I'm going to clean this up, and I'm just going to change this message to men1, and then go to here. I'll just clean this out. And so now when I change this to just men, you'll see that it only has the one comma there in the Braille, and then the Braille. I think that's what Manuel was getting after.
Just one thing to add there. What you can also do is if you need all of those messages to be the same sort of lowercase, you should be able to go into the manage messages table, replace the all caps version with a lowercase version, and it should replace across the board as well.
Right. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I could have done it easier that way. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, Jesse was saying that I could have gone to here and just changed the message. I could have changed the message here to men one and then changed it back to men two, or to not to men two, but back to men, and then it would have, each time you change the master message, it reflows the Braille message. Yes, yeah, I didn't even see it. Any questions? What are the? I think there was a question about typekit. I think we are okay. No, Jesse's answered that already. So yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I guess we're getting close to our hour here. So are there any other questions? If not, what I'll do is I will we can package this up so you have the amenity file that you can play with these pieces here. I actually have the template that can be that is the before, so it's just the pieces, and so you can then, and I'll also include the template as well so that you can work towards that. Okay. Um, okay, so yeah, Manuel's asking, can we export some of the final artwork? Oh, you want me to export the artwork right now? Okay. Yeah, so I can to export. We are yeah, to export. I can come in here and I will say what signs do I want to export, and I can export it based on locations or filters, or I can even search for different pieces here. What I'm going to say is we just want to export all of this, and to do that you would just either click on the wrench by signs or come here and export. And then when you export, you can pick what you want to export, and you can say I want to export the artwork as PDFs or SVGs, and whether you want the text to actually be outlined or not. And then you'd go ahead and I'm just going to turn off the other pieces here because we don't necessarily want that. And then yeah, you go ahead and just check those off. And then I would hit export, and I can even have it send me an email if there's a large amount of them, and then it would be fully all these would come out, and I can actually even say they export as PDF or SVG, and then I hit export, and then that will be available in the in your report section as a downloadable zip file. Okay, so are there any other questions? I think Jesse answered the question about the layers, and on SVGs is yes, they would be on their own layers as well. And we also, yeah, there's a script that we can provide that sort of makes them Illustrator friendly and a batch importable as well. So okay, well, yeah, thank you so much for attending. I'm floored by the level of support and interest, and yeah, it's been my honor to show you guys this, and I'll say that we are looking to do a much more nerdier version of this that will have some alignment commands and some layers and those types of things as well. So um, just not sure when that is, but just keep your eye out, and we'll go from there. Okay, and we'll probably do one on the directional signs that have the multi lines that repeat and those types of things. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, and we will talk to you later.